Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lioness Podcast. We're so happy to have you here. I'm Jackie Sorensen. I'm a holistic health coach for women of faith, and I'm here with my friend Amy Rasmussen. Amy.
Hello, and Merry Christmas Eve. We're recording on Christmas Eve, even if you receive this another time. I'm Amy. I'm a teacher by profession, a wife and mother by choice, an optimist by nature, and happy by design. Today, we're excited for you to join us because we're going to be talking about what it looks like when we're being loving, and also what it looks like when we're not.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. We're also then going to talk about the beauty, the gift, the talent of receiving the love and gifts that people are giving to us. So we're happy to have you with us. As Amy said, it is Christmas Eve, and we just wanted to send our love and best wishes to you, along with some of our thoughts about this time of year. It's so important, and it can be so joyful, and it can be so painful. And we're hoping to maybe ease a little bit of the burden that we sometimes feel during this time of year. So what we're about, what we are wanting to do as women of faith in this time is to give and receive love. I mean, if we boiled it all down, if we boiled this season down, I think that's how I would boil it down. We are celebrating God's gift to us of love coming to the world, love himself coming to the world. And that in and of itself is enough to melt our hearts and help us to be in a state of gratitude and grace. But then we add in all of this stuff, right? All of what it's become, what it has become. And at least for me, I need this reminder all the time that what is actually the point? The point is to love and receive love. So sometimes I think it is very difficult to know what it looks like when we are giving love. Tell me if you can relate to this, Amy. Maybe you can't. But when my kids were little, I worked so hard to sew things, make things, create things, to create an experience, a holiday, a Christmas. And sometimes most of the time, I got my balance off because I would get so exhausted trying to do all of those things that then it was like my sense of humor went out the door, my gentleness went out the door. And even though I was trying to create this wonderful, loving thing, the look on my face was just tired. And when you're in that state, it's like we're not in giving mode anymore. You know, it's like there's nothing left. There's nothing left to give. It can't even come out of my face.
Right. Well, and we take all of our focus and put it on the tools we use to show our love. And because we put all of our focus on those tools, our focus can't be on making sure we're in a loving feeling and actually doing the loving and sending it out, right? All of our energy is taken up.
Yes. Yeah. It's like bandwidth.
Yep.
Used it up. And all that we have left is now what's left is just a blank look on the face. And maybe not even a blank look, maybe an ornery look, because we assume that people know how tired we are. And we assume that they know that's because we've been giving for them. That's because we have been working with the motivation of creating this thing for them. And somehow we think that those things are connected, that they're connecting in the minds of other people, but they're not. All they can see is
if the feeling's there, right? They're not connecting unless we make a connection. Yeah.
Yes. And the way we make the connection requires some energy and effort left over to feel the love that we're trying to give. That was my prayer this morning. Please help me to feel it myself, not to be tired and numbed out, but help me to feel it in my heart and then have it come out of me, have it show on my face and in my voice and in my words. So that's really the boiled down version of what does it look like when we're being loving? Are people going to get it from the fact that they open a gift that they really wanted? Maybe. Are they going to get it from this beautiful atmosphere that we have created? Maybe in part. But where they're really, really going to get it is when, and this is, I'm talking about 35 years of mistakes.
Of learning, right? Of learning.
And successes. And
Yeah.
you know when it works and you know when it doesn't. Yeah. And what I have learned is that I have to take a deep breath and I have to exhale. And I have to have enough rest, enough oil in my lamp, so to speak, in order for me to feel the love that I am trying to give. So I can tell, and I've been practicing this a lot, that when I'm listening to one of my children or my grandchildren, I have a habit of being really intense. I mean, if you haven't noticed that already, really intense in my face. And so if they're telling me something that, it depends. I'm usually kind of reflecting, but I'm almost always have a very serious, look on my face, and I'm thinking, okay, it's time to just lighten that face up. And when they're talking to me and I'm thinking, I'm listening and I want to be a good listener, but I also want them to be feeling my love. And I know I need to change the look on my face so that it matches what I'm feeling, so they can get it.
Right.
So often if we're overly tired, we come across as irritated and maybe even angry, because those two looks, exhaustion and anger, they're almost the same look, aren't they?
Right. Yeah. Because I've had people ask me in my family, are you okay this morning? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm tired. And they're like, oh, you seem really ornery, right? And I'm like, I'm really just tired. Like, you don't have the energy to like lift the face. Right.
Right. It's so true. So wherever we are today, whatever has led us, whatever choices we have made or circumstances there have been that have led us to this Christmas Eve, we now have choices to make. I have been fighting a cold this week. And so my choices are about resting and about taking my supplements and about drinking enough water and being cognizant enough to be taking care of myself so that when our family comes, I can smile and I can show them the love that I have. Yes, we can show people our love even when we have a cold. I'm not suggesting we can't, but being aware that the energy that I have expended in preparing for this week is not going to be understood, right, if it is not given with love.
Right.
And that includes the look on my face, the tone of my voice, whether my tiredness has turned now to irritation, because man, there's a lot of energy for today and tomorrow, right?
Right. Yep.
And sometimes we're tempted in everyone else's energy to feel strangely victimized by it, because maybe it's too loud for the way that I feel right now.
Right.
Maybe I would really like to take a nap, and everybody has all this boundless energy and excitement. So we have to be really clear what we're thinking in our own heads. This doesn't have anything to do with the inconvenience that it may feel like to us.
Right.
It's not about us. It's about people having energy and excitement, and it's wonderful.
Right.
Particularly that age appropriate excitement. A 3-year-old's going to be bouncing, and I'm expecting her to come through the door this evening, and I'm excited to see her.
But you need to make sure that you've done whatever else you need to today so that you can do that, right? Since you're under the weather.
Yes, and to anticipate that the energy and excitement is energy and excitement. It is not something that it's not making my life difficult. That's not the reason,
Right.
you know?
Yep.
I mean, even as moms of babies, sometimes we can get that off in our minds.
Mhm.
Like, this child is crying, especially in the middle of the night, especially the 10th time.
Right.
Sometimes we can feel like we're taking it personally, when it has nothing to do with the child meaning it to be anything about us. It's that they have a need.
Right.
They have a need, and that's it. So even in this happy time, we need to be careful. I need to be careful, and I'm very cognizant of this now at this stage of my life, that children's needs are that. They are their needs. They are not intended to be an inconvenience to me. And I need to be really clear in my own mind about that.
I wanted to comment for just a minute about just where you were talking about, you might feel like a nap today, because it made me think of my mom. I live the furthest away from my parents. And so when they come, they generally stay over. And I remember we had a very direct conversation at one point, and then we had a number of conversations after that, where I said, Mom, when you're at my house, I don't want you to feel like you have to push and you have to push and you have to push. If you need to take a nap, so then you can interact with my kids, how I know she wants to. My mom is so good at the one-on-one connection, and she cares about people. And so I know that's her desire. But I also know that because that's her desire, she will push, right? And she will feel like, well, I need to go and help Amy, and I need to go and help with food or whatever. And I said, Mom, it will happen. What will need to happen will happen, and we will eat something, right? If that kid's hungry, he can have a piece of bread until dinner's ready, whatever. But if you're not rested, then the thing that's most important to you as a grandma, and the thing that really is most important to me as the mother of your grandchildren, that connection, it can't happen in the spirit that you need it to happen. And then since that time, over the years, she's referred to it a number of times, and she's like, I am so grateful for that conversation, so that she knew that I was receiving her love even when she went to take a nap, and that I was happy she was taking a nap, so that then she could give what she actually wanted to give and what I wanted my kids to receive from her. And so it's taken time, right? But I think that's exactly what you're talking about. Because she had such good desires. And as an adult now, I can see those good desires. And as a mother, I can see how she, as a mother, pushed and pushed and pushed.
Yes.
And so generations are great too, to learn from other people.
Well, yes. And hopefully, and this is something that Garth and I talked about this morning, what we really, really want to give our children in the next few days is our example of taking care of ourselves, of being happy, of being grateful, of being loving. That is the bottom line.
Right. That's the gift, right?
That is the gift. Yes.
Yeah.
And how does my mom handle X, Y, or Z? How does she handle the tree that got knocked over? How does she handle the milk that spilled? How does she handle the 2-year-old that's tantruming in the back bedroom? How do we do that in a loving way when things, inevitably, when families get together, things get messy.
Right.
Because people have needs and stuff happens.
Yeah. And they're different, right? Different needs, different energy levels at different times. They don't all just merge into like, oh, my child needs to eat right when dinner is done. No, my child usually needs to eat like an hour before dinner is done, even though he just ate, right?
Yeah. Yes, when we're talking about boys particularly, so
right.
true.
Yep. Right. Well, and I also can't help but think as we talk about what it looks like to be loving and how to do that, especially at this time of year when our desire is so much to do all these things that communicate our love, and yet we wear ourselves out and then our love's not communicated, even though all those things happen. One of the tricky things for me is that I think we can get in a mode of, oh, well, I didn't do that. Oh, I didn't show love. Oh, my face wasn't right. Like we can cause problems with ourselves if we focus too much on, I know this stuff, or I just listened to this stuff and wanted to do it better and I still messed up. And so I think paired with this, with that grace you talked about earlier, is the ability to realize, as much as I am trying to control myself in the moment, right, and do all those things to help myself be loving, the other component to this is that when I mess up, and I will, I can go back when I am in a loving frame of mind and I can acknowledge where I messed up and I can apologize. And I think sometimes as parents, we think, well, just this morning, I had a child who I asked to do something. He decided to do it just however he wanted, which caused a bigger problem. So I came in and I said, that's a bummer, because now you actually have to take care of this mess you created and it's going to take you a lot longer. So we had tears this morning. I was happy because I was calm. I wasn't like snapping and yelling at him, but I could have been snapping and yelling at him. Like I've been in that position too. So what I've learned though, is that I can also go back and say, I'm sorry to my child.
Yes.
Now I'm not sorry that he needed the consequence, the logical consequence that came. But what I say is, I am sorry that I yelled. I did not handle that well. And I'm going to work on that. I'm going to keep working on that in the future. And I think sometimes we forget that we can just go apologize to our kids. We're always teaching them to apologize, but I think as parents, we sometimes don't want to go and do that because we're afraid that there'll be this mixed message like, oh, I'm sorry I gave you a consequence. Well, I'm really not. The consequence was appropriate, and in a loving, calm way, it would have been fine. The issue was that I wasn't in a loving place, that I was snappy and angry and yelling or whatever your particular thing is, right?
And the other thing I think that we're worried about confusing, especially in my generation, is that if I apologize, then I am taking myself out of the alpha parent place.
Yes. Yep.
Isn't that a big confusion?
Yes.
In fact, I remember a friend telling me that her parents had told her, don't ever apologize to your children.
Oh.
And that was the point, I think, that you need to remain the alpha. You need to remain the one in charge. And if you apologize, maybe they thought that was a sign of weakness or confusion. But hey, my children's parents are human.
Yes, as are mine.
Very, very human. And so, yes, I'm so grateful that wound around to that point, which absolutely, this is the other part of Christmas. This is the other part of Christ coming to the world.
Yep.
This is it.
Yeah. The big R word, right?
Yes, it is the ability to turn, to see ourselves. And often we can see ourselves in the faces of the people that we're talking to. If they are afraid, if they are worried, if they're defensive, if they're, sad, whatever it is, sometimes we can say, oh, whoa, that's because I just blasted you. That's because I just rolled my eyes and heavy sighed and, oh, you're such a pain, Nobody wants to be the receiver of that.
Right.
So we can get those clues. And then when we get the clues, we can make it right. We can say, we can think, oh, oh dear.
Yeah.
I just X, Y, or Z, and then own it.
Right.
And it does not take away from us being in charge. It gives our children an example of how to be an adult.
Yes.
How to be a responsible adult, because that's the ultimate responsibility, right? Is to be responsible for what we say and do.
Right.
And even responsible for the state that we're in. Even responsible for the energy we expended here and here and here.
Right.
We
for
made
all of our own stuff. So we
yes,
are responsible for our stuff,
right.
and we're not responsible for, we let other people be responsible for their stuff, like as
Yeah.
appropriately.
Yes.
You know, something else that's really, really cool about this, and this also happened within the past couple of weeks. One of my children did something that hurt his older brother, and the older brother got snappy with him. The younger brother came in to wherever we were, and he was crying, and I said, you know, what's wrong? And he said, well, I just did this, and so yelled at me. And I said, oh, did you mean to? He's like, no, it was an accident, but he wouldn't listen to me say sorry. Well, probably within about 5 minutes, that older brother came up to where we were, and he said to his younger brother, hey, I am sorry I yelled at you. And I just have this moment, right, of like, yes, like
Glory.
I know in the moment he didn't act like we would have liked, right? He totally freaked out at his younger brother, did not accept the apology, whatever, just like I was describing with myself. I've done that before too. But he realized that he could come and he could make things right. Now, does it make it so he didn't yell? No, it doesn't. But it also doesn't make it that he didn't get hurt. Like, he did get hurt by the younger brother accidentally, but it doesn't mean it didn't hurt. So it was just a moment where, and I guess this applies here, because I realized if I did not come to my children and apologize when I did something in a way that wasn't true to how I want to do it,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't know how to do that. They wouldn't be able to see, like, it's okay for me to take responsibility for that. I am not saying that I am a horrible, very bad, no good person that should never receive love from everyone. That's not what I'm doing. No. I'm just taking responsibility for my stuff, committing to try a little harder, to be the person I want to be, and then I'm moving on. Yeah. And so I think it's what you talked about is that example of how to take responsibility, because I think too often we take responsibility for all this stuff that's really not our stuff. You know, like it's not, and we can't.
I wish I didn't know. I wish I didn't know.
I know, it's one of those, right? But even this idea that children's needs are children's needs, like, I have a certain responsibility for that child's needs. However, like, I am not responsible for whether they cry about that need or not, right? Like, it's my job to provide the food, but they can cry about the food I make. Yeah. I mean, and that's not my stuff. But sometimes as a parent, we take all that on, but we don't want to take on the responsibility that really is ours. So yes. Anyway, kind of an interesting.
Yeah. Thing. So back to that moment when we recognize that maybe we have come to today and we don't have a lot left to give. Or maybe we can think of just an hour ago that maybe we responded in a way that was not loving.
Yep.
This is what we have. We have faith and the knowledge and the testimony of Jesus and his mission. And it's kind of like, we can think of it maybe like we have that in our pocket. Mm-hmm. And every time, I mean, maybe I should say we have it in our heart, but every time we recognize that we have not been loving in some way, or we have not taken responsibility for ourselves, and we have gone into victim mode, and we've thought now everyone's super demanding because we're so tired. Everything seems way too demanding. When we recognize that, we have this gift in our heart, in our pocket. We have it with us. And it is there for the purpose of that moment, of recognizing our own weakness, our own learning curve, you know? Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's like, it could be, I hope it is, the little packet of power, you know?
Right.
That keeps us from going into, oh, woe is me, I blew it. I mean, we can even go into
downward spiral, right? Yes. The dive.
Yeah, but we can go into victim mode that way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, poor me, I blew it again.
Right.
I'll never learn this. I'll blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. You know, that goes also into that victim-y brain.
Yep.
So instead of going into that spiral, into that inward spiral that just is so self-centered and self-consumed,
Right.
we can say, I remember him. I remember what he taught me. I remember selflessness and forgiveness and repentance. Those are the gifts of Christmas. And I need them
Yep.
as much as anyone else that has ever lived.
Right.
and that honesty that I am continuing to learn to have with myself. And the ability to own my own stuff, to own my own brain, thoughts, feelings, experiences, reactions, what's even to the point of what I am showing in my body to other people. Having that much self-responsibility, that for me happens as I remember him. I remember he has the power because he is all loving. He is never without love. And I can have that. I can bring that into myself. I can accept that gift, his gift to me, that is like this constant renewing energy. So that every time I see myself as I am, which is a humbling moment, any given day, in that humility, I can ask him to come. I can ask him to give me the power that I need to take responsibility for myself, to be more loving, to be full of his love, so that it will come out of me, so that it will heal me. In the scriptures, it says so many times, I would have come to you and you would have been converted and healed.
Right.
And that's the process, especially at Christmas, that I want to have happening inside of me, is this constant taking responsibility, humility, and then that uptake of love and grace and beauty. And then, if that process is happening, I think just little by little by little, we come into being more like he is, more like what we believe, what we want for ourselves, and for our families.
Yep. And what I think is so interesting about this is what that looks like isn't always, as we're praying, like, please, I'm ready. Please give me the power to be more loving. Well, the way that is given to us can look like, let's circle back to the nap. It can look like, take a nap right now instead of making one more Christmas treat, instead of singing one more Christmas carol, right? It can look like, take a nap so that this evening, with whatever you have planned for Christmas Eve, you have the energy. Or it might look like, go sit in your room for 5 minutes, just take a breather, right? When all the family's about or whatever,
right?
When we have that prayer in our heart, the direction we get is going to maybe look different than we expect. It's not always going to be just this like immediate flow of, now I have energy, right? After whatever.
Sometimes it is, but often not.
Yeah, right. Instead, it's hopefully going to result in us realizing what we need to do in the moment to get to the loving place.
Amen.
And I think that moment of choice, we're talking a lot about choice, and I love that there's so much choice, right? So many opportunities for choice, but it's that moment of choice where we can either decide to believe him and trust him that, yes, that nap or that 5 quiet minutes or go outside and walk around the block or whatever, that is what will renew us, as opposed to saying, no, I really have to push through and I have to make that treat with that grandchild and I have to read the story with my child. All those things where that's just the stuff. And if the feeling's not there, we're not going to end up with what we wanted in the first place. So
it is so true. I have a little analogy.
Oh, good.
And that is, I remember one time watching my son-in-law take care of his yard. And it was a big yard and it was a complicated yard, like lots of different things happening in that yard. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And I looked at it as he started and I thought, wow, this is going to take this entire day. And the amazement and why this experience has stuck in my brain is because I proceeded to watch him do it in a way that I would not have done it. That was like 100 times more efficient than what I would have done. He had different tools than I've ever used, a blower, a writer, all these different things.
Yeah.
And he got that into a beautiful shape in a completely different way than I could even have conceived in my mind. And I think oftentimes our prayers are answered like that. I don't know the shortest distance between where I am and where I want to be, but God knows.
He does.
And sometimes it's not the way that I think, like what you just said that was so beautiful. The nap might be the shortest way,
right?
Get from here to loving. And maybe it is a matter of dropping our attitude, dropping our feeling like the martyr of the family.
Yep.
And asking kindly for help or for support to give us 30 minutes. Now, if we launch in and start being demanding,
right,
and critical,
yep,
and saying and playing the martyr card,
yep,
I've done all of this for all of you, and you can blah, 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 that's not going to work.
Right.
At least not bringing us to where we want to be.
Right. It might get us a nap, but then we still have a problem, right? It's
yes.
not going to get a lot. Yeah.
Right. So dropping our self-justification
right.
for snottiness or irritation or whatever, and in humility asking for support for 30 minutes to rest.
Yep.
I'm amazed at what 20 minutes of closing my eyes and laying down in a quiet place. I'm amazed at how rejuvenating that is.
Even with no sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 5 minutes can do it. When my kids were little and you're not getting 20, right? Because my husband was at work and I was home with little people.
Yeah.
And I'd say, Mom needs to take 5. I'm setting the timer. You can lie down next to me if you want. And I would just lie down right in the middle, spread eagle, on the living room floor. And I would just close my eyes. And I said, I'm not going to respond to you for 5 minutes. That's it. So you can even watch the timer, because little kids need that kind of stuff, right? But I was amazed. 5 minutes of just closing my eyes and just being was amazing.
My favorite posture was laying on the floor with my legs up on the couch, my knees bent and laying on the couch. That was like, that's magic.
Right. It's glorious.
Yes. So having setting it up so that if you have little people around you, setting it up so that they are safe and cared for in the whatever, time frame that you have. And then showing gratitude. And I think one of the biggest things that we can talk about how we receive, how we're giving love, but then how are we receiving the love from other people? And oftentimes I think we're modeling that for our children. We are showing them how to be a grateful receiver by how we do it, not so much by, now what do you say?
Right.
That's instructive, can be instructive, but the bigger instruction is, how does mom do it? Yep. So
it's like the apology, right? Yes. I think it's another thing where I think parents hesitate to say thank you to their kids. For the same reasons we talked about hesitating to apologize. And yet when I can say to my little children, thank you for helping me have that 5 minutes, that helped me so much. Or, thank you for doing your family responsibility. It's your family responsibility. You're old enough to do it without a thank you, but thank you for doing it. It makes such a difference when you just get it done and I don't have to remind you, or not even the remind you part, just thank you for doing it, period, right? It just shows them how they can then go out and show gratitude. Yes. And I mean, when the kids were little, I would sometimes do the instruction, right? When you say, okay, say thank you to so-and-so. And I'd even instruct them, I bring them their sandwich. All right. And now you can say thank you to mom.
Mhm.
And that's something you don't see very often. Moms don't teach their children to say thank you to mom, right? Because that feels weird. And I thought, no, I'm going to do that, but then I'm also going to thank them. And
Yeah.
then they can see, they see the model, they hear the instruction, and hopefully they can then
Mhm.
apply it.
Well, you're creating a culture where it's going back and forth.
Right.
And that becomes the norm. That's the normal thing. I'm
Right.
thanking you. Dad's thanking me.
Yeah.
I'm thanking him. Yeah.
You're
That's
thanking us. Yep. All of those things.
right. That's the soup you want to live in.
Yes. Sounds like a delicious soup. Very good one. Well, what do you think about us talking a little bit about bringing it down to the tactile?
Yes.
I don't know, the very, there's a word for this, to gifts, the actual gifts, but I'm not thinking of the word. Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as you were talking about how we receive, that was kind of cool because one of my notes had to do with a scripture that says this. It has some other things, but then it's talking about people being able to enjoy that which they are willing to receive because they were not willing to enjoy that which they might have received. So that's kind of interesting because to me, in the context of our conversation, what that sounds like is those moments where we could enjoy that loving feeling later if we could receive other people's help, right? If we could ask kindly for the help and receive it so we can go and have that downtime. But we're not willing to enjoy their help, to enjoy this loving feeling. Say this, for what doth it profit a man if a gift is bestowed upon him and he receive not the gift? Behold, he rejoices not in that which is given unto him, neither rejoices in him who is the giver of the gift. So that can totally apply to all of the lofty things we've talked about today, right? That gift that our Savior is trying to give us constantly. He's always there ready to give us that gift of, okay, I need help. I need your strength. I need to receive your love so I can give love out. He's ready always. But the fact that he's ready and basically raining it down upon us, if we don't receive it, if we put up the umbrella, don't let it get on us, right? It doesn't help us at all. So anyway, that's kind of cool. But as I think about the actual physical gifts that we receive at Christmas, and we think about that love, that's what the gifts are all about. We're trying to connect with each other. We're trying to give love in this way. And yet there can be so much stress and so much drama surrounding the giving and receiving of gifts. So I want to share a story and then I'll ask you some questions. When I first got married, I discovered very quickly that my husband's mother and I had very different ideas of wrapping gifts.
Oh,
I love a perfectly wrapped gift that just looks beautiful even before you open it, right? It's fun for me. I like wrapping presents. My sister-in-law thinks that's crazy town, but I enjoy wrapping them. I enjoy making them look beautiful. And it's fun to receive a gift that looks like that.
Yeah.
So my husband's mom generally often wrapped gifts in a grocery bag. That was it. And at the time I thought, so if you give me this thing in the grocery bag, I feel like, okay, well, I had to do this. Here you go. Right? That's how I felt about it.
Right.
Now I'm going to give you a little more information, and everyone is probably going to be like, oh, okay. So this is my maturity speaking now. I married the oldest of 8 children. That sentence right there.
Yes, amen. Got
the difference, right? Like that's all I even need to say.
Yeah.
However, I married the oldest child of 8 children. When we got married, my mother-in-law still had a 4-year-old at home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think of having a child getting married when I had a 4-year-old and then all the ages in between. And I'm like, oh my goodness. My expectations when I was 20 something, I can't believe it. And this is an incredible, incredible woman. As I think about what she gets done in a day, even just the amount of laundry. I mean, one time she figured out 11 loads of laundry is the most I can do in a day. Yeah, that's a lot of laundry. Anyway, so I now have an appreciation for the fact that she just gave of her time and of her energy to get me a gift. That was extremely loving. And so she was in a place of loving, right? But
Yes.
I couldn't get past the plastic bag
Right.
to receive the love.
Yeah.
So I think on this other end of being loving is we can be loving. And I thought I was being loving by having the perfectly wrapped gift or whatever, right? And the look on my face when I gave the gift was probably loving.
Yeah.
But I wasn't giving love when I received the gift.
Mm.
And two other quick examples. When my husband and I were first married, our first Christmas, he decided to do something that he thought would be super funny, and I laugh a lot. So it's like I laugh at things I should not laugh at, just because everything strikes me as funny in cartoon land in my head. So he was justified in thinking I would think this was funny. Well, knowing that I love perfectly wrapped, beautifully wrapped presents, you'll understand why when he gave me a present, our first Christmas, wrapped literally in garbage, pieced together,
Oh,
crushed. And I asked him if I could share these things. So
yes.
I'm not breaking trust, but I was crushed. And I was like, what is this? You don't give a gift. And as I look back, it was like this amazing patchwork of like things he put together, creative. I could have thought it was funny. I didn't. So once again, I wasn't in a place to receive something that frankly took him way more time than just wrapping it in wrapping paper.
Yeah.
So something that's similar is that when I was young, my mom was concerned about how my dad wrapped one of my presents. He wrapped it in paper bags. However, he took the handles off the paper bags and he created this like amazing flower bow. And my dad is not artistic. This is not like my dad. Yeah. He made this cool flower bow and it looked fantastic, even though it was made out of brown paper bags. But my mom was worried, right? And yet I was able to receive that with the love that it was given.
Yes.
So those different experiences, I guess, coming all together, just make me think that as we are in this place of receiving gifts, we need to do the same thing in our hearts and our minds that we need to do with all the giving we're doing. We need to make sure that we are in a loving place to receive.
That is so well said. And we don't ever know what's behind the giver, the giving.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like you said earlier, they don't know about all the preparation we've done, the sleepless nights we've had, the number of like getting the gift, oh, it's the wrong one, returning, whatever. They don't know all that background when they show up, right? For Christmas.
Yep.
Yeah.
So maybe part of the grace that we can give to other people is just that knowing, just that knowing in us that they have given what they had to give, and we understanding that we don't know. We don't know the journey. We don't know what was behind it.
Right.
And I had an experience like that yesterday where I had all these grand ideas about what I wanted to do for my sister-in-law, who is my dear friend. Mm-hmm. And I drew her name for Christmas, and I spent so much time looking at these certain things that I wanted to give to her. And then none of them panned out. Then I got old and got sick and didn't want to go to the store and share it with everybody. Right. So my spouse did what I wanted to do, but bless him, he, picked up that slack. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't, it didn't end up being the curated thing that I wanted and that I had spent time, but she will never know that. But it's okay. She received it beautifully and very lovingly. But the backstory, there's always a backstory.
Right. Right. Well, and I think of this idea that I had written on my chalkboard for Thanksgiving, and it's not moved actually. It's great for December too, but all of November it was up there. And it's the thought that gratitude turns what we have into enough. And I think with this gift receiving, gratitude turns what is given into the best gift that could have been given.
Oh, that's so true.
Instead of having those expectations of, okay, it's Christmas, and yes, I've done all this stuff and I'm giving all these gifts, and now I better be getting what's on my list, or my family better have been listening and realizing that I wanted something amazing, and I don't even know what it is, but they better know. Right? Where does that come from? And I'm sharing all of this because this has been a journey for me. I love giving gifts. My favorite Christmas from growing up was the year that I had a job, and instead of just giving to the sibling whose name I drew, I gave to all of my siblings. And I loved it. It was glorious and grand and fun. And I love when I can just hit upon just the right gift for someone,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But you know what? There are so many gifts to give at Christmas that I want to give from love in my heart, that if I get too focused on having to have exactly the right gift for everyone, I can show up to Christmas and have nothing. Which honestly, even with a smile and love, doesn't feel like love to them, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm not in a loving place where I am grateful that someone even considered giving me a gift,
Yeah.
then they could have done all that work that you just talked about, that I don't know about and will never know about.
Right.
And then my face, like we talked about, shows, well, this isn't good enough.
Yeah.
All your work, all your thinking, that maybe all your plans fell through, and so this is what I'm receiving, it comes across as not enough. Whereas that gratitude can turn any gift into exactly the gift of the moment, right? That was needed.
And the gratitude can turn even gifts like someone watching their sibling while their mom gets a nap.
Yep.
That mama being grateful for that, man, that makes it enough.
It does.
Makes it enough.
Yeah.
And I think that there's also the miracle of the prayer in our heart, please make my efforts enough, and help me to know that, and help my family to know that. This is what I have to give, and please make it enough, and help them to feel it. It's enough when the connection is made.
Yes. Yep. On
When
both
is there.
On both sides of that, right?
Yes. Right.
I wanted to share one other thought about gifts, and this actually came to me just as I've been rolling the thoughts around about gifts, because every year I talk to my children about receiving gifts, and I have a couple quotes, and we kind of talk about this time of gift giving, but the only way to enjoy a time of gift giving is to also know how to receive. So in talking to my kids about this time of year, where we're all so excited about giving presents, but realizing that same excitement can be there for receiving presents, regardless of what is given to us. It's just always on my mind at Christmas. And the reason I started talking to my kids about it was because I recognized the flaw in myself, right? I recognized that I was not receiving gifts from other people the way I wanted to be. I was, I don't know, being a little bit of a snot, like an entitled snot. So we talk about it every year. But what I realized is that the idea of having things that we want and we're looking forward to, that anticipation, is part of the fun of presents. But then if we can have that and also be easy to please, then it all comes together.
Yes.
And on a podcast I listen to, I just need to give credit here, it's Happier with Gretchen Rubin, and they talk about this phrase with house guests. It's helpful to have house guests who are full of desire, but are easy to please. And I thought that applies to gifts too, because it is really hard when you're trying to figure out what to give someone, and you'd like to give someone something they like, but they won't give you any ideas. They won't even say, well, this kid really likes art, or that kid really likes sports, or whatever.
Yeah.
They just say whatever's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then you think, well, I don't think whatever's fine. I don't think my child wants, I don't know, black licorice. They hate it.
Yeah.
So I can't really just say whatever's fine. So if we can be full of desire and give ideas and have that anticipation or whatever, and then be easy to please when we get the presents, then that love is just there. And we're not indifferent, because indifferent feels different than easy to please.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So I guess it's just interesting that this idea of being in a loving place also applies to the receiving end of things. Because I think most of us like to give the gifts. But I think people sometimes, myself, have a hard time receiving in the same spirit that we're giving.
Yeah. And I want to say that I don't think that's a flaw. I think it is just a thinking error.
Yeah.
There's two different things, right? It's like your personality is not flawed. It's
No.
just, it's a way that you've thought that it hasn't served you.
Right. Yep.
And so
It doesn't.
you're recognizing that it didn't serve you and that didn't feel good. So you're flipping it and you're changing it around.
Right.
I think it's easier to think of that way. And I think it is more true to think it's not like this blight on your personality.
Right. I guess I really like the phrase an area of growth.
Yeah.
Right. It was an area of growth for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
I still haven't arrived. There's still times when I think, okay, for example, my kids were trying to figure out what to get mom for Christmas. And my husband and I were talking about it. And he said, I don't think I need any more necklaces. And I found out later that my husband talked to my youngest son, and his great plan was to get mom a necklace, because my boys have decided, like, oh, a necklace, that's the thing to get mom. It's pretty. We like mom, get her a necklace, right? And I received the necklace. Some of them have become my favorite necklaces. And yet I have a lot of necklaces, which, they gave to me. Can't exactly just not have them hanging up there at this stage. But my youngest son figured out something else. And I would have still been grateful for the necklace. But I think sometimes it's easier to be grateful for whatever small thing our young children do.
Yeah.
But as they become older, or as our spouse is giving us presents, or other adults, that's where that expectation can get in our way. Right. And we can forget that we can be easy to please.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And grateful.
And it's fine. And grateful.
Well,
gratitude, I guess, is the takeaway right there.
Yes.
Gratitude.
And heaven bless us.
Yes.
With the grace and the graciousness.
Yes.
The love to give and the love to receive. And I think that's the whole point.
It is.
So we can ask for it and we can receive it. So now we need to let you go. We need to go finish whatever preparations we have and enjoy this day, enjoy tomorrow, enjoy our children's faces. Gratitude for health, gratitude for the opportunity to be together, gratitude for snow that has fallen if you live in a place where that is a thing and you love it.
Gratitude that we had power long enough to do our podcast today, because our power was blinking out. And gratitude for the noise and the mess, because it means that we are surrounded by these people.
Yes, what a blessing. What a blessing. And that we have food and we have a mess to make, right?
Yeah, and we have abundance, right? We wouldn't have a mess of wrapping paper if we didn't have the abundance to have these gifts and all the extras, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's all pretty fluffy.
It is. And yet gratitude can turn it into something less fluffy. I love it. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for sharing this time with us. And we hope that there's been something in our conversation that will be helpful and supportive to you today. So take care, everybody. Merry Christmas. Thank you, Amy.
And thank you. Wishing you a joyful, joyful Christmas day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, Jackie, we still have January coming up, and you have some exciting things at Lioness to remind us about. What are they?
That is true. Thank you. We are starting our 7 Steps to Family Wellness course, which is a once a month group coaching session. And that is supported with downloads of a workbook and videos and things that will walk you through broken up into assignments, very doable shift of your life over 7 months. It is fun. It's been really fun and life-changing for people that have gone through the program the last 6 years. So now we're offering it digitally, and I'm just so excited that it can go out to more people.
And when's the deadline for signing up for that one?
Before the end of the month would be
Okay,
great.
so-
You can sign up right until we start the first Thursday, but it's open until it comes. But it would be great.
First would be fantastic.
Yes.
And the first Thursday of January is the 6th.
Yep.
So the 5th would be your last possible moment to sign up for that if you want.
The other thing that's happening is the Healing with Love class. And it is a lot more. We get together 3 times a month in a virtual group coaching setting. And it is more intense, but more life-changing because of that. And we'll be studying the principles of unconditional love. And along with the unconditional love principles, we are also going to be studying the mind-body syndrome, which marries so beautifully into the unconditional love principles. They kind of answer each other. So I'm so excited to share those massive life-changing things with our group that we'll be going through. And again, you can sign up until that first Thursday, but it's for you and for me. It's nice to be decisive. Jump on. Let's do it. Everything is on sale right now at lionessatthedoor.com. Planners are for sale. It's just that time of year where we're getting our ducks lined up. We're also going to be doing a 5-day challenge again next week. We did it in November, but we're repeating it next week. So I hope that anyone that wants to join in will join us. That's been really fun. That one's free and just prepares you for the coming year. So
okay, and the same place to sign up.
Yep.
Okay. I was going to ask you one other. Oh, I just wanted to say for our listeners or viewers, a lot of people when they go out shopping for presents also buy themselves a gift. But to give a gift that keeps on giving, these classes could be just the thing, or even just the 5-day challenge, right? If you're ready for the 5-day challenge, whether it's financially or just emotionally, start with that. But to give that gift to yourself is one that's going to bless you all throughout the year.
Yes.
And will also bless all your loved ones. So
yeah, it's so true.
Great place to give yourself a present this year.
Awesome. I love that thought. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We'll talk at you again soon.
See you later.